Why did I start mentoring the youth through dance? Well, I've been dancing since I was 4. And, growing up, my inspirations were, Michael Jackson, MC Hammer, Bobby Brown, guys like that, the performers, you know what I mean? And as a 4-year old, that was when, Michael Jackson's, the Motown special where he did Moonwalk for the first time. Um, as I got older, though, my inspirations became like Usher and Genuine, guys like that who also were influenced by Michael Jackson and Hammer and Bobby and Prince as well. But when I became a teenager, I started partying and going to the clubs and stuff like that. I started learning, you know, the street dances. You know what I mean? And through the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that, you had the Harlem Shake, the heel toe, sea walk, and we were, you know what I mean? We was doing all the A-Town stomp, snap your fingers. We were we were dancing, you know what I mean? We were dancing. That was back when the parties were, more about meeting people and having a good time and not, getting content for social media, that kind of stuff. We were really out there partying, sweating, coming, you know what I mean? Come out of party sweating with, your hair messed up and stuff. But when I got older, though, once I graduated high school, I went to college for technology. Technology was like the wave, it was, the future. And here it is today. You know what I mean? Technology is as big as ever. But I went to school for technology. After my first year, I wanted to make more money. It's hard as a college student to, hold a job that makes decent money and stay with your studies. So my dad came with this idea for me to switch to night classes. My parents did, both of them. And my mom, and dad were both like, you should get a job in the school system. They worked in the school system. So I got a job in the school system. I switched to night classes. And as I was working in the school system, I started mingling with the kids and I walked through their PE class and they're doing the dance lesson and I start dancing and they're having a good time with them and it would catch on like, "Ooh, Mr. Ferebee can dance." And so it kind of took off from there because I started leading, school dances would happen and I'm in there with the kids having a good time. I'm leading the line dances now and everything. And after a while, my principal, who was terrified of school dances, I convinced him like, "Hey, we can do a school dance." I guess he had like a bad experience with school dances, whereas people just weren't monitoring the music. This is when the kids started getting into really, really bad content when it came to the music. So I reassured him that, listen, I'll scan all the music. I'm only going to play music that we can dance to, not something that they're, in their living room or in their bedroom listening and singing along. Like, we're going to dance. It's going to be a party. You don't have to worry about the music. I'll take care of that. So we did. It went over big and the kids saw how well Mr. Ferebee could dance. I'm teaching them dances so that nobody's standing around at the parties. You can jump in these line dances and, not be a wallflower, so the kids appreciated that. And it took off. As it took off with me dancing in the schools and stuff like that. Now, mind you, I'm a data support specialist. I'm working with the data and the standardized scores and stuff like that. And in the spare time that I had, I'm in there dancing, so that's basically what it is. It took off. I started performing. I convinced them to put on a talent show. I was the finale, and I performed solo a couple of times. And then it got to a point where I want to include the kids. So I started teaching the kids choreography. I put groups together and they were performing with me on stage and they were doing their own performances and it just took off. Eventually it turned into an after school club. And I needed a name for this group that I'm doing. And it hit me one day where my evolution as a dancer, since I was 4, I followed all the latest dances throughout my entire life. You know what I mean? I'm in my 20s now, in the school system. At that time, I'm in the 20s. And I was like, wait, evolution. I love to perform. I love to entertain people and everything. Just as much as I love to teach choreography, I love to perform too. So I had the idea with these kids and It's not just about them. It's not just about me. It's, I got elementary school kids, then you have the adult, you know what I mean? And we're covering all bases because I'm also doing the stuff that they're into as well. The latest dances, combining it with what I grew up doing, and it's the best of both worlds. So I decided to name the group Evolution. So it covers all bases. And as the kids got older, they were coming back and participating even when they go off to middle school. They were coming back to elementary school to participate. And even when they got to high school, they were showing up at the school dances in elementary school because it was so much fun. And the effect that I've had over the last 20 plus years doing this, the relationships I've built with families and with the kids, to this day, they're the older ones they're inviting me to their baby showers and stuff for their kids. It's all kinds of their weddings, hosting their birthday parties and their sweet 16s. It's a long-term relationship that I've been building with these kids, and nothing makes me feel prouder than to be sharing my experience. I love dance, you know what I mean? And to be able to put smiles on people's faces, and it's also an escape for these kids. I have kids who have a tough home life, you know what I mean, and they just have a tough life period, and I'm teaching them dance is an escape. I was a kid with a very, very broad imagination. I watched cartoons, I played with action figures, I played video games. I had a really creative mind and a big imagination growing up, and there's nothing better than pretending you're entertaining, you know what I mean, just practicing and escaping all the problems of the world. And the kids need it now, today, more than ever. So that's why I do what I do with these kids and mentoring them through dance. I mean, they come back even when they move on to middle school. And that's better than them getting lost in these streets. They can come to their elementary school dance and have a good time. And that's a safe harbor for them. And it's amazing to think, like, you imagine you want to go back to your elementary school because the parties were that off the chain. They were that good. You had that much fun. Anything to keep these kids out of trouble and really give them something inspiring. And it goes deeper than that. My relationship with the kids, it's a trust factor. They can talk to me about anything. I give it to them straight, and I tell them what they can do, how to handle situations. Even if they don't listen, sometimes they learn eventually, and that's what it's all about, connecting, through dance.